cities, sometimes within our own homes. So I think that getting rid of hero road trip is one. I think that this book makes a really great point, or it has one of the chapters focuses on the co-option of our leaders, which I think is, perfect to talk about, because you all are here, and knowing that, many of the people who sit in Congress right now may at once have been, wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, young, fresh leaders, but they've been co-opted. The system found a way to basically colonize them. They've also found ways to colonize our movement in ways they've commodified it. They've packaged it and they've sold it back to us in many ways.
Mm-hmm. Right. Che Guevara T-shirts, like revolution hats.
Right.
That's the real thing. Like that's what people are aiming for, not necessarily the stay woke, whatever. Yeah. It's not.
Yeah, I agree. I think especially the question was, how does it relate to our movement? And that's precisely right. The powers that be, the establishment, the way it is, are the colonizers. They are the ones that are following this rule book that no longer exists or is no longer relevant in this day and age, and it should never have been relevant. But now we have the opportunity where we're paying attention, hence this show. Definitely an awakening that's happening right now, where we're paying attention to what's going on behind the scenes, how the system works, and, even situations like gerrymandering. This is colonization to this day. Like, it's not going away unless we become lawmakers to really look at these issues and have free and fair elections.
But if this is a whole system that's like based on like the very, like one of at the end of the introduction, it says like words like freedom and democracy are essentially like stand-ins for colonization. And obviously we know that those words have meaning, but like the people in power actually never really meant them. Like, how you gonna talk about democracy when you got slaves, or freedom when you, Thomas Jefferson, raping your slaves, right? So, like, how do we do that? How do we be within the system? And I think this is a question that continues to come up. Like, is there any possibility for freedom and democracy within this system?
I think no, because I think that from its very inception, it was corrupt. It was genocidal. It was sexist. It was racist. And
it is.
Yeah, it is. I'm just saying from its inception, and it continues to be correct. And so I don't believe that this system can stand, because it's based on a false document. And when you build a house on a bad foundation, eventually it crumbles. I think that there are tenets to society building that are in that document that, if we were going to create something that was more fair and just, yes, and there's buzzwords that you can use. I think it's important to believe that, to understand that as a society, or to be a society, there's a certain amount of colonizing that has to take place anyway, right? Because we have to have norms and values that we all agree on to be a society, right? But I think outside of that, we just really have to determine what we believe it means to be free, fair, and just, too. I think those are important tenets for us to establish, because most of us have never actually seen that.
Well, what I want to see is people like us running for office and making the change, because I'm tired. I really am. But I am out there fighting. And actually, for me, it's just the beginning. And I know there's a lot of people just like us that are willing to make the ultimate sacrifice for the future, like the future generation. And I know it sounds idealistic. It sounds like buzzwords that politicians always say. I may sound like a politician right now, but what I'm saying is I've seen things happen even with my own life, the way that my transition into politics, and the fact that politics is about power, and we can take back our power, we can take back our freedom, and we can basically repeal and replace. That's sort of our slogan, repeal and replace Congress. We can do it by electing folks just like us that are really intensely thinking about these issues and saying, We have a solution. Let's work together. Just like this conversation right now. Like, what if there were hundreds of thousands of us that put our minds together and got the shit done? Like, I'm tired of talking about it. Let's do it.
Right.
That's just the way I roll.
I agree. Me too. Like, let's get this work done.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that actually, Patrick, that like leads me to another question, like the notion of like, like Isra said, like we put our minds together and we do this, but I mean, our minds are colonized. So like, for instance, we always talk about this, Kay. Like we talk about how many of us came to this movement not necessarily knowing what everybody was thinking, and not everybody has the same, like the same
intention, same mindset, same ideology, right? So we all came, and we came because we were angry and we were ready to fight this system, but what were we going to replace it with? What were we going to do differently? And then sometimes it became the notion of, are you trying to get from up under oppression, or are you trying to be the oppressor? Because your movements, I can't really tell. And so, like you said, when we have these colonized minds, like how do we really truly break free from that when we've never actually seen what it means to be decolonized?
Mm-hmm. I think I have the answer to that.
Okay. I like that.
Well, no, I mean, I've had this question approached many times, and I think it starts with leadership. Mm-hmm. I'm in a position where, with extreme vetting, because I feel like I'm a pretty good judge of character, but not just me, but other people like me that have those social cues and how do you respond to questions, related to our candidates. Like,
and what are your answers?
Yeah, right. While these people are great on paper, their resume, like, Cori Bush, when we saw, oh, wow, Ferguson activist, nurse, pastor, just passionate in the way she speaks, everybody wants to listen. But who is she as a person, and where do her values truly lie? And after several conversations, it clicks. Like, if you have this sort of emotional intelligence to realize that this is the type of person that's going to be a leader, and then from there, cultivating other leaders that are just like her. I think you have to have the leadership to bring folks in that are going to be the types of people that have the intention of doing the right thing, and not just sort of, okay, I got this $175,000 a year job, and now I'm just going to get some corporate PAC money.
Wait. That job pay $100?
Yeah.
Nigga, can I run?
A couple things. One, as somebody who's advocating for a candidate. So as somebody who's advocating for a candidate like that, who's literally like 100-degree weather, hot St. Louis, humidity, sun.
I'm going to cut that out. No, when I was like, nigga, can I run?
As someone who is advocating for one of these candidates to stand in the hot, humid St. Louis sun, 100-degree weather, and stand on somebody literally dripping sweat, smiling, telling somebody I am super excited to be here on your porch, telling you about my friend. This isn't a notion. I don't care about electoral politics that much. This is my girl, and I'm out here knocking on your door because I believe in her.
Exactly.
It's amazing. It's mind blowing. It's what we're here. It's what we're called to do when you have a Corey or an Alex that's running. And so also I just think that we.
The truth is Corey's the homie, and I think for me, I don't see ego in it.
That's exactly it. Yep. And our whole thing is leave every volunteer that we have, our staff, check your ego at the door, because ain't nobody got time for that.
Right.
You just said it. That reminded me. You said something about the $175,000 a year job, but also she's going to, they say, oh, you can't create jobs in Washington. Well, actually she can, because she's also going to create jobs for other people, because she's going to have to hire a staff,
Exactly.
right? So she's going to have to hire good people to have around her, people that's going to be life-changing for her, right? And so when you really think about, everything that goes into having someone ascend to that type of office, somebody that actually represents us, it actually puts more of us into positions of leadership and power. It puts more of us in positions to actually have a more in-depth understanding of how our system really works and operates.
Exactly. And also on the subject of checks and balances, I am in a position, and I hold myself to this position of any of my candidates that are running, if they fail to do the job, they will be replaced, and that's just the bottom line. I'm very strict about that. And I come back to the communities. I will physically come back to St. Louis and go back to, all the Bronx and Queens and all these places that we've won and say, have you seen our candidate lately? Have they been in the community? If not, we've got a replacement, and I want you to nominate somebody who could do a better job. And that's the way it goes.
Hell yeah.
In terms of none of these people are heroes and they're not perfect. But what we see on the surface and the way we've gotten to know them is that their intentions are good. And it's through 1 year of campaigning. It's through a year of making sacrifices, some of which some folks have lost their job to run for office because it's a conflict of interest. There have been some people that are literally almost on the street because, they can't afford to pay their bills because campaign's over, they lost their election, and now what? So these are folks that really care about it, and they have put everything on the line for this movement. And these are not the people that would just say, all right, I'm in, and now I can just take all the big money. It's just not the case. But again, it's that campaign promise that absolutely needs to be fulfilled. And like I said earlier, this is our final chance to really say, if you're going to believe in electoral politics, if you're going to continue to participate in it, especially black folks, especially young folks, because time is of the essence right now. And we have to educate folks on, the way the establishment is right now, the way we can change it to fit what our society should look like. And that starts with a very diverse Congress that represents us in that way.
Do you have any Senate campaigns going?
No, we had run one in West Virginia and we lost, but she'll probably run again in 2020.
Dopeness. I mean, so this, you brought up a point, we're at this point. So this, this, Patric, if you could chime in on this, how does, for me, colonialism seems to be this process of, extraction, oppression of people to extract it, use of people, throwing away those people, and, the notion that, we're at the, are we where we can't take any more, or the power that's doing the extracting is so great that we are just in a situation where everything just seems crazy and a total breakdown is coming or something like that. I mean, and wouldn't a breakdown of this system be welcome? A lot of people are praising Trump for his quote unquote, I got the quote fingers up, populism. Right? So we're at a very interesting place, and a lot of people are confused.
It's confusing. But I think that people also have to understand that a breakdown of the system doesn't mean that everything is rosy. I mean, that means chaos, and I mean, out of chaos comes opportunity. So I think people have to be really clear on what a dismantled system could be, especially if there's not a replacement that we have that's easily slid in, right? We know that there was a system of government in place prior to the U.S. Constitution being ratified.
Well, dictatorship. Dictatorship and rule by violence is this country practices violence daily. Most people practice violence daily. They go practice shooting their guns, right? They go practice beating their wives. They go practice beating their kids. They practice violence daily. Even if it's not physical violence, it's economic violence. People benefit from the oppressions of others in the clothes they wear, the food they eat, the car that they drive. They make poor people and all of us complicit in that violence. So like, and people just, we're so